I studied communication at university, and I've always been interested in visual culture in general. When I was at school, and the art program used to be like super chronological, and I used to skip the pages, to look at what was coming after, and that was like my first approach, like my first curious approach to what was next, Pasticceria San Gregorio is the best place for breakfast in the neighborhood. I love the messy visual feeling you get as soon as you walk in. It's very interesting to get, in the middle of these people. They really, and they do the best cream croissant in town. So it's really, it's something very inspiring, I think. I love the park of Villareale because it's just a few steps away from Corso Buenos Aires, which is a super commercial, crowded street. And the park feels so quiet, and it's beautiful to be so close to two museums. One is the Museum of Contemporary Art, and the other one is the Galleria d'Arte Moderna. It's really inspiring to feel close to a museum. You feel some kind of energy. The park is an example of how Milan is not necessarily gray all the time or working all the time. So I really like this green spot in the middle of the city. The Paninoteca is an amazing spot. It's you have the feeling of going back to the 80s. You see this old school people doing like club sandwich or Cosacco or other kinds of sandwich, like old school. They're really proud of it. And this is another aspect I like of Milano. These old spots where like you have the feeling of people that do things as they used to be and following a kind of rule. You have barber shops like that, you have bars like that, and you have this kind of sandwich place, which is exactly according to this philosophy. My favorite sandwich is club sandwich, which is the most layered and it's the dirtiest kind of thing you can get there. My house is a flat in this 1930s building in Porta Venezia, and I'm sharing it with a friend, and we like living with art. We like changing works on the walls, and actually we commissioned a friend to paint a wall painting in our bathroom, which is very narrow and very tall, and he painted these abstract kind of balls. And on the top you have these running pizzas with our initials, every time in a different combination. So it's a very funny thing when you're walking in the morning. It's a very funny way to start the day. An interesting place to keep an eye on is Via Farini. They have a program of residencies for young artists who don't live in Milan usually. And my friend Giallo Concaldi is a painter from Sicily, and he used to work here for a while, and now he's working. He has a studio there, and what I really like about his take on art is the fact that he comes from a different background than most of the artists who work in Milan, young artists that work in Milan. So I think it's very interesting to speak with him. I really enjoy speaking with him, talking to him. What I really like about his work is the scale. It's really huge. It kind of reminds me of these Italian painters from the 80s, I have the feeling that it's a very genuine approach, and he really enjoys painting that way, and it still doesn't feel necessarily like proper, and it's kind of risk-taking, so I really like visiting him. Opening the gallery in Milan was a kind of challenge because I felt a kind of generational lack. I didn't see any other young galleries that could start doing a serious job with artists of this generation. The space is a typical storefront you can find in Milano. It's very small, it's like 35 square meters, and it's basically 2 rooms. During the openings, it's very nice to have people outside, but you feel you're also inside, because you really see the whole show in just one glimpse. What I really like about Milan is this tension between a bourgeois feeling you always have, like the houses, the people, the attitude that people have here. It's a really bourgeois attitude, but they always have this avant-garde background. So in design and fashion, these create a really interesting tension. I don't think something interesting can come out of a situation where there's no tension, you know. You can have 19th century beautiful building just next to like a crazy brutalist building, beautiful as well, but in a different way, and they can be in face of each other, or like next to each other. And this is a very, compared to Paris, for instance, where like architectural landscape is more homogeneous. Here you have a lot of like discoveries, and still it feels very human-sized.